Hi, good evening, and thank you all for coming tonight. My name is Pam Kelleher. I'm the president of the Rotary Club of Richmond. And on behalf of the Rotary, we'd like to thank first the Holocaust Museum for hosting this and the Jewish Community Relations Committee for partnering with us so we could bring this forum to you this evening. Rotary, if you don't know about us, is a global organization made up of over 1.2 million members and over 45,000 clubs in the world. Our motto is service above self, which is channeled through the work we do in the community. If you'd like to know more about Rotary, or if you're curious about Rotary, please join us. We meet every Tuesday at 12:30 at Willow Oaks, and we'd love to have you. There's more information about our club at the back, and especially I just want to put a plug for our Blue Crab Festival we're having September 14th up in Churchill. Love to see you there. One more thanks. Finally, I'd like to thank Nick Bacon and his team with Mainstream Media for helping with AV and live streaming this evening. We hope you all enjoy tonight's program. And here is Brian Green.
Hi everyone. I'm Brian Green. I'm with the Richmond Jewish Community Federation. And in my day job, I'm a lawyer with the law firm Green Herlocker. The Federation, through its, as Pam said, the Jewish Community Relations Committee, or what we call the JCRC, serves as the voice, outreach, and advocacy arm of the Jewish community. And I'm honored to be representing the JCRC and the Federation tonight, and to also be joined by Rob Slotnick, who is our JCRC chair. I'd also like to thank Sam Asher of the museum and his incredible team here for all the work that you do and for helping us make this happen tonight. Thank you. And also our partners, the Rotary Club. Thank you very much, Pam and Katie, wherever you are out there. Thank you all so much. You've been wonderful partners, and we have a terrific turnout, and that's largely because of you all, so thank you very much. From a Federation perspective, we join with everyone tonight on the heels of rising anti-Semitism around the world, and unfortunately, yes, here at home. We also join with sadness over the 6 brutal murders last weekend of our Jewish family members, including Richmonder Hirsch Goldberg Poland. Many of us know Rachel and John, Hirsch's parents, and many of our kids were friends with Hirsch and his sisters. And the past few days have been filled with remarkable stories of what a wonderful young man Hirsch was. So through events like this one, Federation and our Jewish community will continue to honor Hirsch and the other hostages, and John and Rachel, who have taught us to value every life, to invest in relationships, and to work every day to make the world a better place. And to the candidates, we appreciate your desire to make Richmond a better place. And we thank you for coming tonight, and we thank you for stepping up to serve our community and for being with us for these very important discussions. Thanks.
Thank you. I'm Michael Phillips. I'm with the Richmonder and 910 The Fan Sports Radio. It's an honor to be co-moderating tonight. I'll let Jeff introduce himself.
Jeff Shapiro from the Times-Dispatch, the little newspaper that time forgot. Thank you for joining us. And I'm pleased to share the dais with my former colleague and friend, Michael Phillips.
Absolutely. So let's have one round of applause for the candidates here tonight. And we'll let everybody know that was our last round of applause tonight. We'd ask you to please refrain from reactions, yelling, applause, all that until we're finished so we can hear everybody's views on how to best run the city. The candidates have each been given a minute to make an opening statement. We have a timekeeper in front who will provide them with notice when they have 10 seconds remaining and then when they are out of time as well. When we ask questions, it will be a 30-second call and response time. We'll go left to right to start here. We'll mix up the order as the night goes on to keep things fair. So Councilmember Andreas Addison, you may begin with your opening statement.
Well, thank you so much for having us tonight. Great, lovely venue to be in for this conversation. My name is Andreas Addison. I'm currently on City Council. I've been a public servant of the city for 16 years. Upon graduation from college with my political science degree, yes, I am actually using my political science degree, and that is something I'm proud to be serving the city with. But during my time here, I've really been focusing on my 8 years as an employee, just learning how City Hall works and functions, And from within the walls of City Hall, working with 2 different mayors and 5 different CAOs, I've seen the needs of opportunity for really driving change from the top down, but more importantly, empowering those from the bottom up. A lot of the challenges we see in our city have solutions at the front line of our employees that just want to be engaged and empowered to make that solution happen. During my time on City Council, I've worked on transformative policies and investment, like public schools, increasing funding for public schools by $88 million, building 4 new schools and increasing teacher pay by $15,000, investing in transit, and more importantly, focusing on making sure that's free for everyone to get around our city to access jobs and opportunities as well. Glad to be here.
Good evening, friends. My name is Danny Avula. I'm a pediatrician, 20-plus year resident of the East End, husband of a Richmond Public School teacher, dad to 5 kids who have all gone to Richmond Public Schools, former city health director, former state DSS commissioner, and the leader of the COVID vaccination effort under Governor Northam. I am running for mayor because I have seen this incredible arc in the city. We've had this incredible growth over the last 2 decades. As a resident of Church Hill, I have seen how many people have benefited from that, but not all of my neighbors have. I'm a trained public health physician, and we're trained to look at the root causes of health disparity, to identify and address those root causes. Turns out those root causes are the same as all of the other things that drive inequity across the board: housing, education, employment, income. I'm running for mayor because I want to help lead the city to a place where, as we continue to develop, everybody benefits from that we get to have communities that flourish regardless of where you are and what you look like.
Good evening, everyone. Michelle Mosby, candidate for mayor. I'm running for mayor because I love our city. I'm a Richmond native. I love the people of Richmond. And I believe that in this next chapter, the people of Richmond deserve a leader who will be focused on Richmond, a leader who will listen to the people of Richmond, a leader who is experienced in local government. I've had the opportunity to have an experience working with the mayor's administration, with the city council, with school board, with our state and federal legislators, as well as our regional partners. And I believe that Richmond needs an experienced leader that can make sure that Richmond is working for all of us. And so I thank you for this opportunity this evening, and I look forward to the questions, and I look forward to earning your support beginning on September 20th. Thank you.
Maurice Neblett here, candidate for mayor of the city of Richmond. I'm just so lucky to have the mic. I feel like I want to just go ahead and do a whirlwind dance like Elvis Presley. I'm here today, and I'm grateful to have an opportunity to be here with you. Thank you for upholding the history that we're in this place of sanctuary, right, and remembrance. I'm running for mayor in the city of Richmond, and I want to tell you a little bit about my background. I am a graduate of Virginia Union University, a local HBCU here in Richmond. I am an individual who was an orphan, right? It's not a coincidence that I'm here today, and it was hard work. It was grit. It was a level of resilience that couldn't be measured. I'm on the board of Federal Credit Union as well. I'm a serial entrepreneur. I have several successful serial entrepreneur businesses. I also want to make sure that we give opportunity to the people. You know, when is there a time where we have someone of the people represent the people? I lived on each side of town in the city of Richmond. I could tell you the different aspects of how, you know, Richmond grew and where the other parts fail. It takes opportunity to make something change with someone who really truly wants change and inclusivity for everyone. We've been here before, election after election. We have experienced individuals who've plagued our city, but our circumstances have becoming worse today. Thank you. Thank you.
Hi, good evening, everyone. My name is Harrison Rodet. Thanks for having me. I just want to start by extending my condolences to the Goldberg-Pollen family. I grew up in the Richmond Jewish community. I did not know Hirsch, but we're a tight-knit community, and whether it's to their family or the KBI community, my condolences. It's a difficult time, and certainly being in this building is a poignant reminder of that. I just want to share a little bit about my background and then look forward to diving into all the important policy issues here together. I think it's really important that our next mayor have the right mix of experience and sharing the values of the people who live here, and I really believe that I do. I started my career working for Senator Kaine. He shows a model of public service through listening. I spent many years working with large organizations in manufacturing environments and helped run large organizations. And I started a nonprofit here in our community that makes a difference every day. Really excited for the conversation we're going to have about building positive change in Richmond. Thank you.
All right. The questions for tonight have been submitted by members of the two organizing groups, as well as your moderators will each take turns. A reminder, it is 30 seconds per answer in this question. We'll start with Dr. Avula now. We'll continue to move left to right. Understanding that the conflict is extremely complex with something like the conflict in Palestine and the ceasefire, how do you ensure Richmond is a place where all citizens feel welcome and valued while also protecting First Amendment rights to free speech?
I don't know that it is the local government's place to weigh in on really complex foreign policy issues. I do know it is the local government's place to ensure that there is room for compassionate, kind, safe, peaceful dialogue. And I think as mayor, that is the goal, that you uphold peace, that you preserve free speech, and that you take swift action against any hate or violence. We need to ensure that there is the kind of environment where people feel respected and a part of the dialogue that this community needs to ultimately get to healing.
As mayor, I will continue to do what I have done in my life. It's bringing people together. It's hearing all sides and bringing people together so that we can hear the different perspectives. I believe that we just went through the protest down at VCU. I was the candidate that was on the phone with the organizers of the protest as well as our police department. Because how do we ensure that we're listening, but we're also working to ensure that people are safe. And so that is the type of leadership that you will see as mayor, someone that's going to be working for all sides to make sure that all sides are being heard.
I believe that safety, peace, and harmony should be in all nations, first and foremost. But when it comes to being a mayor in the city, I do look to ensure that we have that voice, because that's what America's about. Life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. We have to maintain that. We have to allow the communication from the citizens to the government. We have to hear them. We can resolve these issues together. And I believe that if we listen longer, that we'll be able to help resolve, even if it is a national issue. Thank you.
I think people look to leaders at all levels to be a place of moral authority. I mean, look no further than what happened today in Georgia with another school shooting. That's something that people in Richmond do need to talk about, even though the situation occurred not in this city. So I think it's very important for mayors to be clear about what matters and make sure that everyone has a right to express their First Amendment views, and I'm a strong proponent of that position.
I believe that our country was founded on the premise of freedom of speech and freedom of expression and freedom of religion. But in that process, it cannot be at the extent of losing someone else's ability to feel safe and feel respected. And that is something that, while as a mayor we have limited resources to really truly change that, it'll be my goal to make sure that those who call Richmond home, who have visited Richmond or have family in Richmond, that they feel safe from all aspects. And to me, that is something that we can protect and preserve, the ability of expression, but not hate. And keeping people together on the same page is something that I'm passionate about, and making sure that our police force and others hold to their utmost respect in their job itself.
To Ms. Mosby and other members of the panel, much has been said about Mayor Stoney, what he's done, what he hasn't, whether he's kept his eye on the ball. On a scale of it being the school season, on a scale of A through F, please grade the mayor's performance and why.
How much time?
I'm going to say that the mayor gets a C. And the reason I'm going to say that he gets a C is because he could have done a better job in listening. I do not think that he does listening well. But I do also know that during his tenure, we've had the COVID crisis. We've had the social unrest that's really an unrest that continues to go on. There's been a lot of things that have transpired, and so I'm going to give him a C today. I do think a lot of things could have transpired differently as it relates to the systems and services for the people of Richmond.
For me to give a grade level, I really believe it's a difficult thing to do.
It is.
With it being a predecessor, I don't believe that I can easily do that. Once you get in position, you see the issues that are at hand. You see the resources and tools you have to work with. So with that, I don't feel comfortable enough to actually give a grade. I can only imagine what it took to pull Richmond up from a $250 million revenue to now up to a $3 billion revenue, right? There's a give and take. We have to look at.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, I'm sorry, I can't see. The light is bright. I cannot
It is
see
bright. It is
I
bright.
cannot see you. I cannot see it. Thank you.
You know, I've been asked this question before, and I always say the same thing. I really don't think voters and residents are looking for some backwards-looking scorecard.
Right.
I appreciate the question. I think we're all capable of holding in our heads very nuanced views, like we appreciate this administration's advocacy for things like fare free transit and talking about affordable housing as an important issue, while also pointing out clear areas of policy disagreement, whether it's been with certain approaches for economic development or the way the administration's conducted its business. We're all adults. I think we're capable of having that conversation.
I mean, I've served with the guy for 8 years, so I have to give him a grade. I would say it's probably, I'll say a C+. I'll do one up above Michelle, and here's why. A lot of the accomplishments that I think I'm proud of the progress we've made over the last 8 years. You know, you're asking me to fill potholes, and now we're paving 80% of our streets. You asked us to fix transit, and now it's going into the counties, and it's fare-free. You went from talking about trying to fund public schools to now we're talking about how we strengthen the neighborhoods that support those schools. And so we've seen an evolution, but I do believe he did miss the opportunity of collaboration. And I know that from someone on city council, you know, the things that he's touted as his successes could have been bigger. They could have been more. And had he worked with council, I think we would have gotten even better outcomes for housing, et cetera.
E for effort. I think the city is decidedly a better place than it was 20 years ago when I got here, and certainly in the last decade. I mean, there's a lot to be proud of, a lot to be excited about. I think the area looking forward that probably needs the most investment and help is an investment in the gears of local government, ensuring that the basic functions and responsiveness of local government exists to serve the people of Richmond. And so there's a lot of work to be done as we look forward.
Our next question will start with Mr. Neblett. What is the biggest issue currently facing the city, and how would you address it?
Right now is transparency. It's transparency, you know, so we can have that communication, listening to the community. I believe we do need to fix that, along with the housing crisis. The housing crisis is a big issue right now. We have over 5,000 individuals displaced at this time. And I believe that that's one of the first things that we need to work on within the first 100 days is a resolution for home ownership in the city. Thank you.
The number one issue that I talk about over and over and hear from residents all over the city is their top concern is housing. And let's start with some facts. The majority of people who live in Richmond are renters. We don't spend nearly enough time talking about that. We don't do enough to talk about what tenants need and what renters needs. Yes, we need to do more to build more affordable housing, and there are ways the city can leverage its dollars much better. I'm excited to do that. But we have to have a holistic conversation that starts with a particular focus on people in our community in the richest country in the world that are unhoused and at risk of becoming housing insecure. This is a problem that is not going away.
You know, one of the biggest things I think we're losing a grasp on is our affordability. People that bought a home 10 years ago are now paying almost $200 more a month just in taxes to keep in their house. And that's a challenge I hear in every income level, across every corner of our city. And I think what we need to see in our next chapter, and what I'll do as mayor, is a revenue strategy, focusing on transitioning our burden from homeowners and renters into our growth and our future. We've got an amazing master plan that sets a really good, inclusive, beautiful vision for our future city. And I believe we can capture that opportunity and invest in that future and make it happen.
I think as I've traversed across the city, I hear equal parts housing, schools, public safety. I think all of those become rooted in an effective local government. So I'll come back to basic government services. If we have a culture of transparency, a culture of service, and a leadership culture that really thinks about the residents of Richmond that we exist to serve and drives service delivery, I think all of those other things, more money for housing, more money for schools, more support for public safety, all of those emanate out of a highly functioning local government.
Affordable housing is indeed the crisis that I'm hearing, and it steers back to a working government, because again, we have policies that I was able to work through on as a council member of the Affordable Housing Trust Fund. But is the policy working the way that it was put together? The answer is no. Our Maggie Walker Land Trust is the policy, but is the policy working the way that we put the policy together? The answer is no. So it's making sure that our policies are working to get us the outcomes that we're looking for. I believe housing will shift when we work the policies.
I think we'll pick up with Mr. Rodet next. Would you lobby the legislature and the governor to lift the 1978 freeze on annexation, which was a consequence of this racially fraught struggle over control of city government? And were it lifted, allowing the city to, which is growing, to grow with its suburbs, would you have a preference emerging with Henrico, Chesterfield, or both?
That is probably the most Jeff Shapiro question that I could have imagined, and I say that as someone who's been a reader of the columns since, before middle school was over, high school was over. I can't imagine a more Jeff Shapiro style question than that. I think the challenge we're going to have, even for those of us who would like to see Richmond expand its land area, is the General Assembly would have to be willing to say yes to that, and I just think that's very unlikely. So appreciate the question. I think regional coordination is deeply important. It's one of the major top issues over the next 20 years for our city, particularly as we keep in common a number of issues with Henrico and Chesterfield. But I think finding that agreement at the General Assembly would be nearly impossible.
Remember, the question is, would you lobby the legislature and the governor?
I understood the question. I think I would say the following. The future of Richmond is very tied to the General Assembly. It's very tied to the governor's office. We have a governor that's vetoed common sense gun violence legislation. We have a governor that's been hostile towards women's rights. These are issues that are important for Richmond. Money for Richmond Public Schools. The Commonwealth funds over $100 million to Richmond Public Schools. The Combined Sewer Overflow Project. These are all areas where we need the partnership of the General Assembly. If in evaluating all these things, a discussion around annexation became part of something we could talk about, fantastic, but I think we have to look at it in context of all the other things we're going to need help from the General Assembly with.
So my answer to your question would be no, and here's why. We have no annexation because it was done on racial lines. So in the 1960s, late 1960s, early 70s, it was done to expand and dilute the black voter base. And so until we can prove that we've actually challenged ourselves in overcoming that barrier and invested in those neighborhoods and elevated the quality of life across our entire city, I don't think we deserve the chance of annexing more property. Until we really focused on the south side and focusing on the flooding and the lack of accessibility through sidewalks and transit and jobs and investment, we don't deserve to ask the General Assembly for permission to do more expansion. We need to take care of what we already own, what we already have, and make it the best quality of life for everybody.
I think the answer starts with what is the conversation in the region, right? I would start the conversation with our regional partners because the dynamics are different than they were even 20 years ago, right? The fact, one of the maybe upsides of the development that the city has undergone is that it has actually forced the displacement of lower income residents out to the counties. Really sad for the city, but it has changed the demographics in the counties to the point where, all right, poverty is no longer just a city issue, right? Henrico and Chesterfield are having to grapple with these issues in different ways. And you look at the expansion of regional transit as a really positive outcome of that. So I think the regional conversation does look different given some of the population shifts that we've seen.
Thank you.
And if sorry. Yeah, thanks.
The answer for me is no. The reason being that there are so many other things that I believe that we need to be discussing with our General Assembly partners. Our local composite index is an issue for our state funding. Our housing, our mental health needs that we have for our Richmond residents. There are so many other things to me that start a conversation. And I believe that once we get our mayor's office, school board, and council together, working together, then we can lobby for other things. But together, I think we need to start with the things that are our everyday life.
So I don't think we should take all the cards off the table, but we're being conscious that we do have to resolve issues in the community. We have to make it more appeasing and appealing and comfortable for the residents that are in the city now. We have to take hold and take control of the gun violence that we have in the city of Richmond. We also have to resolve the unaffordable housing issue by defining affordable housing. But the thing is, we have to fix home first before we open the doors. And when we open those doors, we want to welcome the other residents to a safe, welcoming, and prosperous community. Thank you.
We'll go back to the front for the next question. This is about the proposed Planned Parenthood clinic. One, do you support the proposed Planned Parenthood clinic? And number two, do you agree with the terms of its transfer from the city to Planned Parenthood?
Well, I was very vocal and proud to put my name on the legislation as it came forward. I believe access to reproductive rights and services, as well as abortion services, are needed, and especially in a time when that is questionable on the ballot this year. And so I've been proud every time I've been asked on city council, which is rare, to support women's rights and access to these services. And so I was, yes, supportive of it. The terms and opportunity for it, truthfully, it exposes the fact that we as a city need to support and help those who are looking for spaces. And I think, to me, I support the terms and location. It's at a place where there is a health services desert.
Very supportive of the action. As a public health director of the city, one of my priorities was improving maternal-child health, increasing access to family planning and reproductive health services. We built a network of clinics in the 8 lowest income neighborhoods in the city to improve that access. And so that is one of the bodies of work I'm most proud of as public health director, and absolutely think that we need to support Planned Parenthood in every way we can, because these are deep health equity issues around access and contraception and reproductive health.
Yes, I support women's access to health care. I believe I'm the only candidate that has had to visit a facility like a Planned Parenthood when I didn't have any insurance. I needed some type of a birth control. I needed some type of an assistant and didn't have health insurance. And so, yes, all the way in, no one will fight harder for that, because I get it and I understand it. The terms, I don't know exactly what the terms for the city were, so I can't say I totally agree with whatever the terms were, but yes, I believe that we should protect our women's health clinics for people such as myself that need to need services, not just abortion, because they're bigger than that. I needed services, and they helped me with services.
Yes, I do support women's choice. I'm pro women's choice. The thing is that I'm all about inclusivity, right? I want to make sure that women have a clear understanding what options they have available. Where we do have abortion clinics, we do need to have clinics that is pro-life as well. So we can have a full support of women's choice, so that they can make a decision, a sound decision on their body. I have no right, no one else should, and the government shouldn't be involved in someone's making a decision on their body. Thank you.
Yes and yes. And this is a great question to ask. I mean, there are some important differences of the folks on the stage and their records on choice. Dr. Avula served in the Youngkin administration. Governor Youngkin has been extremely adversarial towards reproductive health. While he was serving the Youngkin administration, I was knocking on doors for Planned Parenthood, helping elect pro-choice candidates. So I think there are differences amongst the group and the stage. I'm a strong supporter of those rights. This is not a time to have a mayor who has a questionable track record or an unequivocal champion of these rights.
We'll give Dr. Avula 30 seconds to respond if you'd like.
Yeah, I think it's important to know, I was previously appointed to the Northern administration, right? And when I made the transition to the Youngkin administration, I got clear questions about three things: abortion rights, transgender rights, and gun control. Because I was pro-choice, because I was pro-trans rights, because I was pro-gun control, I did not get a post as the state health commissioner. It's why ultimately I was surprised to see them even come back to me after being so honest about my policy stances that they wanted me to have any role in the administration, but I was very proud to serve 2 million low-income Virginians as the Commissioner of Social Services for the state.
And I believe the next question is for Dr. Avula. Would you support expanding the city's guaranteed income program? A trial, of course, is underway. And if you do support such a program, how would you explain to the public that this is just not another expensive giveaway, but one that has potential, without bogging people down with bureaucratic demands, to pay for basic needs such as rent and utilities?
Yeah, I think the jury's still out on guaranteed income, you know? It is clear to me that income is one of the absolute drivers of opportunity, and that we create a lot of layers and barriers for low-income families to try to get access to benefits. So from that standpoint, administratively, it may just be easier to give a family a certain amount of income, give them a runway, and see how they are able to find a pathway out of poverty. Now, there are several pilots around the state going on right now. I think we have an opportunity to evaluate those, see if the evidence is there, and make an evidence-based decision about whether we continue to fund those or not.
Mayor Guaranteed Income works. I have an organization called Help Me Help You. We work to provide navigation continuum of care to those who have been justice involved. We have 30 individuals who come from the community or the Department of Corrections, and many of them have been able to pay for the large amount of rent deposits that you get when you are incarcerated. It doubles, it triples. It's not the normal deposit that someone would get. And so though the Mayor's Guaranteed Income has helped people to have housing, it's helped to put food on the table. I've seen it work, and they have to go through financial literacy and other classes. Thank you.
I believe that's a starting point for families to receive relief, but that's not the end all be all. We need to equip them with tools for being able to pull themselves through those circumstances with vocational training, resume building, and then also we want to make sure that they have a stable access to employment. You know, I believe we can open up those opportunities through the city. We have so many vacancies through the city. We can partner with nonprofit organizations and public-private partnerships that can pull in, and some businesses. You know, we can incentivize businesses to hire those individuals in the community as well with a stipend program with public and private partnership. Thank you.
So I really like the idea, but I can't promise to continue it, and I'll tell you why. The local contribution to our budget is about $1 billion, and we've made a lot of really important commitments for our future policy goals. We're paying our City Hall workforce more as they deserve. We're paying our teachers more in RPS as they deserve. We want a fair, free transit system. These all come with price tags, and at the end of the day, we have to make prioritization decisions. Those three are non-negotiable, and I think the next priority has to be investing in affordable housing. So conceptually, the idea is a good one. I think we have to look at the budget and see what's available.
My answer is yes, because I've met so many families that have had to make tough decisions as they navigate the social benefits cliff, when they have the eligibility that just literally cuts off that service benefit. And a lot of times, a universal basic income can help that family stay employed, keep that job, work to the next level. Because truthfully, they're making an economic decision when they maybe quit that job, because it's so much in benefits that they're gonna lose. They could lose housing vouchers, they can lose food vouchers, they can lose other services. And so to me, if you understand what the challenges that some of these families are facing, sometimes some money can help them continue on that path for upward mobility. And that's something that I know that I had help with growing up as well. I wanna make sure families have the ability to succeed.
For our next question, each one will be individual to the candidate. I'd like to ask each of you about a perceived weakness of your campaign. I believe we're on Ms. Mosby to start. During your time on council, you did receive criticism for hiring city services and contracting family members, owned businesses, as well as hiring a man who lived with you to your staff. Given that nepotism controversies have taken place several times in the city's recent history, what assurances can you give voters that your hiring decisions would be above reproach?
I need you to repeat the question because only one part of that question was for me, so I just need you to repeat it.
Absolutely. During your time on council, you were criticized for hiring a man who lived with you to your staff and contracting out business to family-owned businesses.
Okay, I don't recall that, but okay.
Okay.
All right.
Go ahead.
So the young man that lived with me worked for the state. So he worked for the state, but he was working for the state through the city. So when he began to work for me as a council liaison, nothing changed other than the fact that he was working for me. He was contracted to work for the state, but he was getting paid through the city all the time. So when I went to the attorney to see if it was a problem for him to work for me, the answer was no, because he already worked for the city, but was contracted to the state. So the shift never shifted anywhere other than who he was working for, and it was me.
We'll move on to Mr. Nevelet next. Your campaign currently has not made significant progress in fundraising. Early polling suggests a lack of name awareness. What assurances can you give the voters that if they vote for you, it would not be a wasted vote?
For one, that's a polling on financing, and a lot of individuals up here, they've received funding from a lot of corporate organizations that have money that the citizens pay to them in order for them to have that revenue. So with me being from Richmond, in the city of Richmond, as a community organizer, I invest my time and commitment to the citizens every day on each side of town. And I work with not population specific. I work with veterans, non-veterans, the youth, the elderly, in regards to providing services. And from what I know is, if it was all about money, I wouldn't be here today because I was an orphan and I didn't have the opportunities like the other candidates up here. I don't have parents, but yet I still made it happen, not only for myself, but to serve the citizens. And I want to make sure the citizens have a seat at the table. And that's the most important part, not to have a battery in my back and to have the corporate interest running our city. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Rodet, several of your top donors are from out of state. What assurances can you give voters that you'll represent the best interests of Richmond and its constituents?
Absolutely. I'm proud to have grown up in Henrico around this community. My first job was in Richmond. The donors who have supported our campaign, I think I'd have to double check the math. We have the first or second most contributions under $100. And yes, there are people from out of state who have been in my professional career who are supporting me because they know what my values are and they know what I want to do for the city of Richmond. So they're excited about change. They're excited about a city that is more equitable, more fair, more prosperous, and a city that works for everyone.
Member Anderson, you're the only active member of City Council on the panel tonight. Given all the talk about dysfunction at City Hall and the need to reform, how can we trust? What assurances can you give voters that? What assurances can you give voters that you're a part of the solution, not a part of the problem?
Sure. I think I would go back to my time as a city employee, where I led open government and transparency initiatives that actually were trying to get to the root of trusting government again. And so one of the last awards I won in 2015 was a COVID's award from the governor that was about open government innovation. And for me, that is something that has been a pillar of my employment at City Hall. And it's actually the first legislation I drafted when I was elected in 2017. And so I've been big on transforming and fixing the transparency, the trust of information. And as mayor, one of the things you'll see is building on that, giving you the information that shows a government that works for you in the ways that it can. And that's what I commit to doing as a city council person and will continue as mayor.
Dr. Avula, you worked under Governor Youngkin. Several of your top donors have previously backed conservative politicians. What assurances can you give voters you'll stay true to the platform of the Democratic Party?
You know, I think my track record, right? My friend Harrison has already pointed out the fact that I've worked for the Youngkin administration, but the reason that I worked for the Youngkin administration was because I had the opportunity to serve low-income families, to increase access to benefits, to increase food security, and to make government work better for low-income families, to find pathways out of poverty. As public health director, I worked for racial equity tirelessly for years and centered the root causes of systemic and structural injustice in our community, and that's what I'll continue to do if elected mayor.
Starting now with Mr. Neblett, any number of residents have received fresh and usually higher tax assessments on their houses and land, and of course the effect of this is to raise tax bills. Given the hot real estate market, the likelihood it will remain hot, is there room for a rate cut, a tax cut?
I believe there is a room for evaluation for that. You know, I want to make sure that we subsidize real estate tax for our seniors. I don't believe that anyone should lose their home if they're on a fixed income or no income at all after they purchase their home and you are at a senior age. I believe that avenue, we do need to provide subsidies so that we can promote legacy in the city and not open a revolving door or a river city that is a steady flowing with individuals coming in and out of the city. We need to have retention in the city of Richmond. Thank you.
I think it's very important people be honest about this issue. You know, we can do more to protect our seniors. There's a program in place that if someone's on a low income and they're above the age of 65, they can get real estate tax relief. I'd like to see the General Assembly start a process of passing a constitutional amendment so we can do means-tested real estate tax relief for people who are on lower incomes. But the majority of people who live in Richmond are renters, number one. Number two, anyone who wants to cut the real estate tax, which funds over half of the local contribution to the budget, is going to need to explain what services they're going to cut in light of increasing costs that we know about already that are very worthwhile to invest in, like our collective bargaining agreements and fare-free transit.
As someone who's been a part of 16 budgets during my career and sitting on city council, navigating that on an elected official level, the thing that I think is the biggest piece is changing how we tax. We have valuable assets of vacant land sitting downtown. That's the undertaxed part is the land, and the undertaxed part that doesn't exist is the building. We've got to find a way to activate those assets because we have over 1,000 blighted, vacant, empty parcels that are underutilized across our city. It is my job to activate those as mayor. That's through economic development, goals that help achieve our vision as a city. To bring grocery stores to Southside, it's going to take development, it's going to take vision, it's going to take zoning. But more importantly, it's going to take taking the tax burden from homeowners and putting it towards that growth in our future. That's what I can do and will do as mayor.
I think we've got to look at our tax rates. This is an issue of competition. We lose residents to the counties regularly. That said, I don't know that it can be a first-term priority, right? I think we need to find and generate other ways of increasing tax revenue as a city, making sure that our city hall is functioning and working as a good partner to developers, ramping up and maximizing the use of land to bring in as much tax revenue as possible before we can start to tick down our real estate tax.
I can agree with we need to make sure that we are looking at our budget. Anyone that walks in and says that they're going to lower the tax, I would be wary, and that's just my honest. We have the Virginia retirement systems that we have now invested in. We are still in collective bargaining. There are so many things that have happened. We've just given raises to our employees. There are so many things happening there that I agree. We need to walk in, we need to do an assessment, we need to make sure that our systems are working and get everything lined up so that we can look at whether our tax structure and make the decision from there.
Mr. Lovett, you had an additional comment?
Yes, I would like to speak on the program that is provided to the seniors in the community. I'm a community organizer. All right, so I know firsthand trying to get those seniors into those programs and the loops and tricks that you have to go through, it's a deterrence. You think about, you know, someone who has worked all of their lives and they still have to go through a bureaucratic process that is a continuous, endless travel, right? So the thing is, when we talk about we go into Virginia retirement system, we increased the wage for our employees, but yet we still are building a diamond district with over $170 million that we have to pay back. It's going to come to the prioritization. We have the funds there. All right, thank you.
Thank you. The next question is about efficiency in government. Obviously, all of you believe that city government needs to run more smoothly. Can you give us some concrete details of what that looks like in your administration? We're starting with Mr. O'Day in this round, I believe.
Sure. I have said since day one of the campaign that we need to audit every single department in City Hall and work with the people in the building to get things done. Common sense approaches to moving the needle are setting metrics that we can see and observe in public. It takes almost 120 days on average for a resident in Richmond to get a personal property tax question satisfactorily closed. So you got to have a mayor who's going to say, we're going to improve this metric by this time, and invite people to hold you accountable to that. And when you set these goals for all these departments and work together with the people who are there listening to their feedback, you will miss some of these goals. And at that point, it's particularly important to say, here's what we're going to do to fix it. So change management is hard, but I've done it before and look forward to doing it here.
As somebody who burned 18 months of waiting to open my gym in Scott's Addition that I had to build 2 bathrooms and an ADA ramp for, if you want to fix some basic functions of government, you sit down with all the decision makers in a room on a Friday morning at 9 o'clock, and you go through every single active building permit, every person who wants to try to invest in our city, and you make sure everyone around that table answers to how we get it done. And right now, that is the solution to fixing government's answers from a mayor's perspective. It's not consulting it out. It's not giving it to someone else to do. If you really care about changing the city government, you got to show up and make the people that report to you do the work that your people depend on. And that's what I'll do as mayor, and not just for permitting, other functions of government too.
Process improvement requires the accurate diagnosis of a problem, the setting of a new target, and then the accountability required to get to that target. When I was Commissioner of Social Services, one of the major issues we dealt with was turnaround time on CPS clearances. Businesses all over the state were complaining because we were taking 8, 10 weeks to get clearances done, and they were losing staff who weren't going to wait around for that. We mapped out the process. We recognized we needed to invest in capacity. We recognized we needed to invest in an online portal so that people could submit things and not mail them and fax them in. And we reduced that turnaround time from 8 weeks to under 5 days. And that's the kind of accountability, target setting, and process improvement that's got to happen all across City Hall.
In the first 120 days, it's walking in the door. It's having a cabinet of seasoned folk to walk in with changing the CAO. I need an experienced, seasoned CAO that is preferably has a background in Virginia localities, but particularly in the greater Richmond region. From there, we will refine our vision, mission, and values and prioritize. We will have leadership briefings because we need to make sure that we understand the goals and the processes that are currently working for us, and from there, assessing our systems.
Thank you. Would you mind just repeating that question for me?
Absolutely. The question was, how do you fix the issue of inefficiency in local government and bring about more transparency with concrete examples?
Okay, great. Thank you. So, first off, it comes with true evaluation. Within those first 100 days, I need to go to department and department, and I want to work ground level. I want to work side by side with those personnel, so that I can see where the challenges they face. When you go to City Hall, they've been processing a lot of documents, old school style, right? It's just been processed by paperwork and boxes of paperwork. We need to increase the technology and efficiency in that matter and evaluate the performance in regards to the metrics and compare that side by side with where we want to be, because we have personnel that have training that has not been improved, and that is key. We have to equip our personnel with better training and opportunity in that matter. Thank you.
And this question we'll start with Councilman Addison. This falls under the umbrella, what does it mean for the Jews? Richmond, of course, is part of the state pension system. Separately, the city also has its own investments. How would you resist pressure to withdraw investments that are made in Israel and its economy as in protest to the war in Gaza?
I would not pursue any changes of that magnitude at all. I think we are a global economy from the beginning in the ground up, and to start picking different sides of which to look at for investments which are good or which are bad, we will never get to the end of that argument. And I believe that it is in our best interest to invest as best we can with your taxpayer dollars and other resources to meet the best that they can be. And I am not going to let any pressures tell me otherwise, because I think that is how the world works, and I support that global economy, especially at the local level.
Very much agree with Councilman Addison. You know, our priority, we have so many things to grapple with, and our priority as a local government should be to ensure, as I said before, safe, productive, healing dialogue. I don't think there's any role for local governments to play in divestment.
My answer is the same for these two. It's the same.
Yeah, I believe that, you know, with all interests, everyone's life is important, and every investment is important to someone. And the thing is, we have issues that we need to resolve here. We have refugees that come here into this community. We need to make sure that once they are here, that they are safe. They have opportunity for growth, and that they can be successful, and their children's future will be promising. Thank you.
Yeah, I frankly object to the nature of the question. I mean, the equivocation of American Jews' interest and making that sound equivalent to everything that the Israeli government does is one of the challenges we have in this country with anti-Semitism today. So I'm not going to respond to the question.
We have time for a few more questions, and we'll allow a closing statement, and then the moment you've all been waiting for, there are refreshments, and we'll have a reception afterward. I believe Dr. Avula is up next. Can you, each of you, tell us about somebody who has endorsed your campaign that it's been particularly meaningful to you to have their endorsement, and why?
Let's see. I think, gosh, I've had a lot of great endorsers. I'm so sorry. Let's go with, I just recently see Catherine Jordan. Catherine Jordan's an existing, second district city councilwoman, knows what is going on in the city right now, knows the kind of leadership that is needed, deeply committed to democratic principles, and was on council working closely with me as we navigated through COVID. And so I think for both the personal experience with that, knowing what the future of the city needs, really having a heart for regionalism and seeing my role as a regional leader, merging the Richmond Henrico health districts, I think that is pretty meaningful.
I would say Kathy Graziano. We worked together on council from 2012 to 2016. She trusted that I would lead the council from 2015 to 2016, and she has been a supporter because she knows that I'm going to do what's best for the people of Richmond. It has nothing to do with party. It has nothing to do with anything other than making sure that the people of Richmond and that the city services and that the things that we provide as a city are working for all of Richmond. And so we're different. We're different in age. We're different in so many things, but yet we're so much alike in the decision of moving Richmond forward.
I believe for me, it's the city workers. They're on the ground level, just like me. I'm coming from the bottom, but they trust and believe that I have interest in their growth. And I believe that endorsement is great because though if I'm elected, I want to step down from the tower, roll up my sleeves and get to work. I want to lead and work side by side with the city workers, but also with our community. That's important to me. And I believe that that's significant. That endorsement from people that's working for us on a daily basis, and they feel forgotten. And for them to give me that endorsement, I'm grateful. Thank you.
Our campaign slogan is building a city that works for everyone, and I couldn't be more proud of the endorsements of two organizations, New Virginia Majority and the Richmond Crusade for Voters. To me, those organizations represent such a broad swath of the residents that live here in Richmond, residents that have in many cases faced discrimination in the past, and residents who also know what a bright future the city has if we all can work together to achieve our goals. So I'm deeply proud and honored to have the endorsement of those organizations.
My biggest endorsement is my wife. Without her support through the 2020 campaign and all the trials and tribulations it means being on city council today and the hard days, the tough ones, where it's difficult to really see through the trees what the future is going to hold. But more importantly, as this opportunity came forward, to really encourage me to really take the time and prepare myself, what it means to run for a city office across the entire community. And I think through her support, she has been by my side through a lot of the thick and thin, the good days, the bad days, and more importantly, the biggest cheerleader I need to keep going every day. So that's who my biggest endorsement is.
Taking notes. That was good.
And starting with Ms. Mosby, how do Richmond Public Schools strike a balance between their roles as educational centers and in a city with high poverty rates and large numbers of single-family parents as an important element of the social safety net? And does the public fully understand the roles, the schools as essential to seeing that nutrition-challenged kids and their families, for example, are assisted by the schools?
The question is, does the public understand? Is that the question?
Two questions.
Okay.
Striking a balance between the school's roles as educational centers and as part of the social safety net. And the second part of that question is, does the public fully understand these dual roles that the schools play?
So yes, the school does play a lot of dual roles. And I believe that, for me, that's where leadership comes in, because if you're good at being a leader, then you know how to support from behind so that you can help with some of those areas, like making sure that social services and our early childhood education and others are able to step in and do some of those pieces, so the school teachers are not having to do all things. And no, I do not think that the public understands it or realizes it, because if they did, I believe that we'd have more volunteerism from the public to help as we face those challenges.
I do believe that the teachers in the schools take on a great burden for us and the parents in the community. Not everyone is aware of the nutritional side of it. I've been in Richmond Public Schools, over 7 RPS schools as an orphan, and I've been to school hungry. I've been to school hungry, and not everyone experiences that, and it's almost like out of sight, out of mind. I do believe that we need to pour in more support from the parents, and we have parent coaching involved with our school systems, making it a resource center in their community. All right, thank you.
Yeah, I think the framing of that question is a tough one. There's no doubt that we all should support all our kids and create opportunities for people to get a great public school education in the Richmond public school system, and I will be a champion for RPS. We also cannot ask RPS to solve generations of disinvestment and inequity that has been perpetuated by terrible policy decisions that has largely and disproportionately affected people of color. That's not an RPS alone problem to solve. We need a holistic approach that tackles housing, supports nonprofits that support our kids and families. I think if we're just talking about the great things that we need to do to support our teachers and our kids, then we're missing a really important part of the conversation.
I've been a big supporter of RPS during my time on city council, and I believe that we need to start investing in neighborhoods. And I think that we put a lot of the burden on our teachers to fill the gaps when there's gaps in the neighborhoods. And that could be resources like libraries, community facilities, safe places, healthy places, fields, tracks, abilities to play sports, to have a venue to which to be active and curious. And I believe that if we want to focus on what the school board's job is, they're just trying to maintain the classroom. They need a city that comes around what they're investing in. And I think you can look at public housing neighborhoods as a great symptom of that. We need to invest, not let it be housing authority's problem. It's our city. They're our families and our residents. And we need to take the initiative to invest where they live so that the teachers can do their job and have kids prepared to learn.
I think it's pretty clear that the public doesn't understand it, because every few years when the RTD shows the comparative per pupil cost, everybody loses it, right? And the reality is that the city is serving kids who have come from generational poverty because of our racist history and policies. And so it actually is going to take way more investment. And so I think, agree with many of my colleagues here, that these solutions extend beyond what RPS can realistically do, right? We've got to deconcentrate poverty. We've got to deconcentrate wealth as well in our community, and actually create communities where we can have socioeconomic integration that feeds the schools.
We have time for 2 more questions. This one starts with Mr. Neblett. The Richmond Flying Squirrels announced plans for their new baseball stadium today. Is there anything you would have changed about the agreement they came to with the city of Richmond?
It would have been from the beginning. I believe that we should have had a referendum with the community, first off. I believe that's important for the community to make a decision if we need to have that cost out of our wallet for taxpayers. So I just avoid even answering that question for any agreements after not having an opportunity for the citizens to make a vote on if they want their funds to go that way. Thank you.
I wish the project absolute all the success in the world now that it's off the drawing board and into reality and construction has started. It's very easy to look back and second guess. I'd say the things that stand out to me are, one, if we had made the decision to use public money, if that was a consensus we were going to reach as a community, we could have made that decision previously and saved the city a lot of money. And two, I think we missed the boat on having a conversation as to whether or not we wanted to use our debt capacity as a city, which is very finite and very limited, on this project instead of putting more dollars into things like the Richmond Public Schools capital budget or investing in affordable housing. So I think an opportunity was missed to have a more robust conversation about the role of public financing in economic development and who economic development is for.
If I would have gone back 2 years ago when we first announced that this was going to happen, right? We had the Tallheimer project, we had the whole proposal for the diamond. It should have been wrapped up, lock, steel, delivered by the end of the year. Because at the end of 2022, we didn't have the interest rate issues we have now. We had a different economy for supplies and resources. We could have seen a project that would have actually used a TIF or a community development agreement plan that would have used the financing from the resources in that light. Because it's not just a ballpark. It's an entire $2 billion investment of mixed-use office, retail, and housing around this project with a park in the middle. And while this is today, unfortunately, 2 years late and now putting in a different financing model, I do believe my job would have been focusing on getting that deal done right as soon as we made a decision before anything changed.
I'll say two things. One, if I'm elected, I'm going to inherit this reality and will do everything to ensure that the city government is working as a good partner to make sure that the deal gets done on time, doesn't have cost overruns, doesn't pose more risk to the taxpayer. Maybe one callback I'll just say is that at the beginning of this conversation in 2016, 2017, there was real regional interest. And I think if we had a different spirit of leadership and spirit of regional collaboration, we could have moved forward with regional investment that would have made less risky to the public.
I'm going to also ditto. 2016, there was a conversation, and not the whole project, because some of the project is the city, but the piece with the squirrels is a piece that, as mayor, I would have had a conversation with our regional partners. We all enjoy the squirrels, and so that piece would have definitely been a conversation. But also, when the project was first brought to council, it was not the full debt capacity that it is today. And so what we had at the beginning is what I could see us working with the shift of having our regional partners in on the squirrel piece.
And final question, Friday's the day the ballot will be locked down, and I'm wondering if any of you are considering, for any reason, perhaps absence of traction, withdrawing before Friday. And if you did, who might you endorse?
Asking the hard questions,
They all would endorse me, y'all. All of them.
And Mr. O'Day is first on this one.
Yes. And what does it mean for Harrison Roday?
I'm up first. I'm really excited for this election. We've got a fantastic ground game. We're going to knock on so many doors between now and the end of the race. We'll have the financial resources to communicate a message that's going to be about a positive future for Richmond. 60 some odd days to go. Couldn't be more excited. Really looking forward to the remainder of the race here.
You know, I've spent 16 years getting to this point of, I think, preparing myself for a campaign for mayor. And I think my career has shown me that there's a lot of opportunity. I would not give up this because I don't think it's winnable. I'm going to say that we have 60 days. This is the home run sprint right now. This is the push for victory on election day, because right now there are more undecided voters than those who know who any of us are right now. And so our challenge right now is to go knock on doors. And what I love the most is when I have those conversations in districts that I don't really get to walk in very often because I represent the first district, one district. So what I'm finding is a validation of my campaign, who I am and why I'm running.
Couldn't be more excited about the next 62 days. I mean, I think the energy has been really good leading up to this point and is only building. Lots of endorsements, lots of energy and affirmation from community, a very wide donor base that represents every part of Richmond. Super excited to see that. So yeah, very optimistic about the weeks ahead.
I'm not getting out, y'all. I'm in. We have some great momentum. We believe that on November 5th that we can win this race. There's data that shows that we have a great opportunity to win this race. And so we're going to keep knocking doors. Yes, there are 50% of the people who do not know any or all of us, but at the end of the day, what it showed was that when they heard about my experience, I was the choice. And so I'm going with that. And we're going to knock on doors to make sure that people know that I have the experience to run the city.
I'm homegrown. I'm the people's candidate, right? It's an opportunity for them to have a voice that they haven't had for a long time. It's not about me. I'm going through sacrifices with my own finance. I'm going through all the channels of running a campaign, from marketing to canvassing to being a publicist. I mean, I'm doing it all. And with that grit, I believe it's well worth it to go all the way through. It's not about me. It's time for us to have an opportunity to have something new, you know, and the future is now. You know, the future is on the ballot, and the future is with Neblett. Thank you.
Each candidate will be given 1 minute to make a closing statement. I think it's appropriate in light of two of you citing the 50% undecided number as you make your closing statement. What will your pitch be to that 50%?
You know, my entire career has been of public service, and I think my experience working in City Hall, working with governments across the state of Virginia, and more importantly across the country, has prepared me to understand what it takes to lead a city. I'm not coming in needing to understand how to make policy or decide really complicated budgets. I've been making budgets with 8 other individuals every year for the last 8 years, and that's hard work. Collaborating across balance of different districts and different needs. I believe that experience prepares me to be able to get the job done because I don't need to figure things out. I've been doing it for the last 16 years, and the change that I want to bring is focusing on a revenue strategy that transforms how we grow a city. More importantly, creates opportunities to create new housing, employ our residents to have career-defining opportunities, and more importantly, transcend how we can operate as a city to work for you, the taxpayers that support it.
The electorate is about to elect to hire the next mayor of the city. I think there are 2 major roles that they need to think about. One is the CEO role. The mayor's real power is in the organization of City Hall, in building the right leadership team, building the right culture, ensuring accountability and service delivery. There's a lot of important work to be done. The other part of that job is the external relational part. Working with city council, working with the school board, building regional collaboration, partnering with the state, and doing the advocacy with the General Assembly. That's not just the 60 days of the GA, but is year-round advocacy to get the resources that Richmond is going to need. I'm the only candidate who has done all of those things, merging the Richmond Henrico Health Department, being deeply embedded in both of those local governments, having gone through the budget cycle twice as commissioner of DSS, and successfully advocated for over $200 million of new investment in information technology, leading an actual government organization, the City Health Department, the Richmond Henrico Health District, and a $2.6 billion agency at the state. And that's the track record that we're going to need to propel the city forward.
I sit in front of you, a 23-year business owner, a decade of working for Verizon, being a part of a union, a 15-year nonprofit executive director, a realtor of 18 plus years, a mother of a millennial, a former city council representative from 2012 and became the first Black woman to serve as the president of council. It had never been in the first 4 years that someone becomes the president of Richmond City Council. I led a council, and we changed our CAO seasoned so that we could get our CAFRs in on time, and we could begin to change the trajectory of our financials to a AA+. We invested in the riverfront. I rode to the Port Authority to ensure that the port shifted and it changed so that it could become a revenue driver for the city of Richmond. I have continued since 2016 off of council to be connected to 8 council representatives, 8 school board representatives, 9 school board representatives, and the mayor. and still been able to get things done. We need a leader that has done it and will continue to work for the entire city of Richmond.
Hi, 47%. I'm Maurice Neblett. I'm here. Yeah, I know you're undecided, but I'm going to give it to you raw. The fact is that we have looked over 4, 8, and 12 years, and we have individuals who have been in those elected positions. They failed us. I don't say that loosely. We wouldn't be having these conversations today if they did what they were elected to do. It takes initiative. It takes stepping up and stepping outside of your box, because if I stayed in my box, I would never be here in front of you today. I've already succeeded. You hear financial transparency and accountability in the news. My platform has been that since then. It's rolling out of the tongues of some of the candidates here. Without experience, as they may say or think that I not have, if that was the case, why would they follow that? Why would they mirror that? So I want to give you the comfort of knowing that I will fight, that I'm committed to giving you voice and opportunity, that I want to give innovative practices that we need. And I want to let you know, let's not pass the baton of the same issues. Business as usual is over. Thank you.
We face a critical choice this November if we want to build positive change in Richmond and truly build a city that works for everyone. Experience is important, and I'm very proud of the experience I have helping run large organizations and starting ones from scratch. Policy is important, and I'm really excited about the important policy issues I've been advocating for on the campaign trail. And values are important too. When people say they want to advocate for a level playing field, I'm really excited to share what I've done to actually make that a reality for people in our community. I'm really excited to have been walking the walk on values that I learned working with Senator Kaine and President Obama since I was a young person, understanding that public service is not about telling everyone what to do, but about serving people and listening to our residents. This is an important election, and it's about many things. I really am putting myself forward to say I have the experience, the leadership, the policy, and the values that the residents of this city are looking for. And I'm really excited to earn your support between now and when voting starts on September 20th and Election Day on November 5th.
As a reminder, we'll have refreshments over here, and the candidates can make themselves available if they'd like to. Let's give a round of applause for the candidates for coming out tonight. Thank you to our sponsors, and thank you for coming.